This is the MetTrans Transcast, coming to you online to talk about the MetTrans Transportation Center once again, and this time with our special guest, the director of MetTrans, Jen Giuliano, who has visited us from USC to maybe talk a little bit about a very important milestone for MetTrans, the 10th anniversary.
Thank you, Matt. Yes, the 2008-9 fiscal year is our 10th anniversary. We were founded officially in 1998 and got started officially in 1999. So we're going to spend the entire academic year celebrating.
Well, congratulations, first of all. What I'm hoping we can spend a good deal of time talking about the changes that you've seen over those 10 years. Maybe beginning with what you hoped at the very beginning MetTrans would be able to accomplish.
We didn't have huge goals for MetTrans when we started. Our big hope was that we would survive and we would become a decent center of research and outreach. As we became successful, our goals, of course, got much broader and bigger, and we found ourselves wanting to make a place on the national map of transportation research, and I think we've accomplished that.
The issues that MetTrans has addressed, have they evolved over the years? And I suspect I know the answer.
There's been a great deal of change since 1998. We started out with very little money and the need to focus very clearly on a few research areas. And at the time, we thought that goods movement and international trade would be very interesting because, after all, there wasn't anybody else in the Western Hemisphere of the United States doing such a thing. We also thought that public transportation would be a very important thing for us to focus on, given our location in the Los Angeles region. All of our research was aimed at solving what we call the problems of large metropolitan areas. Today, I hear people talking about the megacity and the whole idea of transportation problems in megacities, and we actually started doing that 10 years ago.
So you must have been pretty happy with sort of a feeling of prescience. I mean, these were issues which 10 years ago were not getting nearly the attention that they are now.
No, not at all, and particularly goods movement and international trade. There was just nobody outside of the railroads or the trade people or the ports that really cared very much about what was going on with freight and international trade, and particularly the impacts that trade has had on urban areas. Beyond making sure that a good job generator would be there for everybody, there just wasn't very much interest or concern. Certainly that has changed dramatically over the past 10 years, and today you can't pick up a newspaper without hearing something about the latest goods movement issue in the region or in the United States more generally.
What about on the public transportation side?
In public transportation, our initial idea was to sort of think about how you could make public transportation better. And of course, since then, our transportation problems have only become worse. Congestion is greatly worse than it was 10 years ago. The budget problems of public agencies are even worse than they were 10 years ago. It's hard to figure out where the next revenue is going to come from for the next investment. And population has increased over that period. So the transportation problems now are even worse than they were 10 years ago. So, of course, not through our fault, but certainly gives us a huge agenda to continue to look at.
Absolutely. What other issues have arisen since the beginning of MetTrans 10 years ago that now sort of demand attention?
The big issue today is obviously the environment and energy. The science of the last 10 years, I think, has really changed the way we look at environmental impacts and, in particular, air emissions. The discoveries of particulates and their impact on human health has really changed the way that we must deal with those problems, and the degree of regulation and the degree of technology forcing that we're seeing as ways to solve those problems.
And when you mention particulates, of course, you're talking about particularly from diesel engines, like
Yes.
those that drive the thousands of trucks that are behind the Southern California
Yes.
economy.
Not just the thousands of trucks, but also the ships and the airplanes and the cars and just about everything else that moves.
So do you see this as you look out across what we certainly hope will be another 10 years of Metran's success, that this is an area that Metrans will be working on?
Yes, I don't think we have any choice but to invest more in environment and energy research in one way or another. One of the things we do is a lot of research that looks at trying to make systems more efficient. And in the short run, that's how we're going to reduce emissions, is through efficiency gains. We also are doing a fair amount of work on the impacts of regulations, and that work is aimed at figuring out what types of regulations work and what doesn't, so that we can do a better job of achieving those goals.
What will stay the same with Metrans? What kinds of things have you established that are now parts of the mission which are certainly going to continue?
We will continue to be focused on metropolitan areas or megacities, call them what you wish. But beyond that, I have to say that one of our strategies has always been to do one new thing a year. And so each and every year we come up with some new idea, either to promote our outreach programs or to make our research better or our publications better or our educational programs better. So we will continue to change, I think.
We have to speak for a minute or two about how you're going to celebrate in October of this year. October 30th, I guess, is the big banquet?
Yes, on October 30th from 5:30 p.m. on, we're going to have a reception and a dinner. We have a wonderful guest speaker, David Billington from Princeton University, who is a civil engineer and has written on engineering innovation. So we're going to have a lecture that is a real refreshing change from the kinds of research that all of us do at Metrans.
That's going to be fascinating. I sure hope that I can attend. How can people learn more about the banquet? I'm assuming that there are still spaces available.
Yes, go to our website, www.metrans.org. We will have all of the information on the reception and the dinner on the website.
In our last, the premiere Metrans Transcast, we talked to Thomas O'Brien about this timeline, which I guess is going to be featured that night.
Yes, rather than spend the evening talking about Metrans, we're going to do it visually, and we're going to do what we're calling a timeline display that will lay out our accomplishments over the past 10 years. And we will also have a PowerPoint video going on that will highlight the various research projects that we have conducted over the past 10 years.
Sounds like a very promising plan for a wonderful evening. Jen, I guess we're out of time. Thanks so much for joining us on Transcast.
Thank you.
This has been a Metrans Transcast. Metrans is funded by the United States Department of Transportation and the California Department of Transportation, Caltrans. Our guest has been the director of the Metrans Transportation Center, Dr. Jen Giuliano. We hope you'll join us for the next edition of Transcast.